I want to give a summary of this module, which we've called Reality as It Is, showing what's the basis of certain knowledge, showing how we can have certain knowledge, and showing what are the criteria for scientific knowledge, establishing that the existence and function of the individual conscious self and of the universal conscious self, the real, self-evident and undeniable. So I want to give a summary of the whole module. So first of all, starting off, material science, we have to discuss material science because material scientists claim that they have a monopoly on reliable knowledge. And material science and technology are really the basis of modern society. Unfortunately, science has given way to scientism, which is the belief, the unreasoning, irrational belief, in the absolute ability of physical science to explain everything without reference to consciousness, without reference to the conscious subject. And since modern society is based on that, it means there's an inconsistency, a serious inconsistency at the base of modern science. And to establish a proper way of looking at the world, a way of living, a way of thinking, then we have to remove the inconsistent structures. So science originally started off to find certain knowledge through observation of the world around us. And because at that time, say at the time of the Renaissance, there was so much claim to authority, somebody thought this, somebody thought that, so they established criteria for getting certain knowledge based on direct experience of the world around them that anyone in principle could verify. It was very successful. They made great advances in understanding the principles of physical nature. Gradually, they came to think that the only important knowledge is objective knowledge. And then finally thought the only knowledge at all is objective knowledge, and only objects that can be measured objectively are real. Anything else is imaginary. So consciousness, spirit, God, all of these things went out the window. This is scientism. The belief that it's an irrational belief that there's no subject. But actually there is a subject. The subject is doing science. Science doesn't happen by itself. Science takes place. It's an intrusion into the physical world by the conscious subject who's looking at the objects. So a science that denies the potency of the conscious self is irrational, it's inconsistent, and a society based on that is chaotic. And also, because modern society has been based on this assumption that consciousness doesn't have a real effect, like non-physical consciousness or any other non-physical reality can't have a real effect in the material world. Because science is based on that, it's removed the subject, it's removed values from society, and therefore we see society in the state that it is. The first thing about materialistic philosophy or mechanistic philosophy is that it is false. It is not consistent with observed facts. They say, material scientists say, that in principle they can explain everything in terms of physical interactions. That means gravitation, electromagnetism, strong and weak interactions in the atom. But the fact is that they can't. For example, I'm looking directly at this video camera. So video cameras don't come together by themselves. Computers don't come together by themselves. Space shuttles, space telescopes don't come together by themselves. A ship in a bottle doesn't come together by itself. The whole world is full of artificial objects that have not come together by themselves, would not come together by themselves, and could not come together by themselves. Why couldn't they? Well, three important reasons. One is they're in a high energy state. The physical laws bring energy down, whereas human beings especially, and living beings in general, they raise energy levels. For example, skyscrapers, it's at a high energy. The natural thing is for it to fall. The natural thing is for trees to fall over. But life holds things together. It holds them up. Next thing is that in mixing, natural laws tend to spread things out, but we concentrate them. We make vacuums. We concentrate, for example, the inert gases from a mixture of gases, concentrating when they're enriching nuclear fuels, concentrating, getting the lanthanide, the rare lanthanide metals from sea sand. There's so many examples of concentrating. So artificial objects can't be created just by physical interactions alone. Next thing is that they're very complex. A computer, an information network is extremely complex, much more complex than the physical laws. So physical laws can't make something more complex than themselves. And therefore we can understand that physical objects cannot be produced just by artificial objects can't be produced just by physical laws alone. There's some other influence. Another thing is information. The society is full of information. We're in the age of information. But information can't be created by physical interactions. We see that physical interactions, on the contrary, they destroy information. Information theory tells us that it's inconceivably improbable that a large amount of information can appear from a simple system. Why is this? Because information isn't physical. Physical objects are measured. They have physical properties like temperature, mass, length, and so on. But information doesn't have any physical properties. It's measured in bits and bytes. So it's not physical. So therefore there's no possibility of making a consistent theory how physical interactions can produce non-physical information. So it means that the physical world in which we live is full of artificial objects and information which could not be produced by the physical laws alone. So mechanistic philosophy is wrong, it's false. It contradicts known facts. Although they say they only deal with experience, their theory or their fantasy is directly contradicting our direct experience. The next thing, if it's so false, so obviously false, maybe it doesn't even make sense. And that's actually the fact. Why is this? Because modern science, the modern scientific method, is objective. They've made great strides in knowledge, advancement of knowledge, because it's objective knowledge. But at the same time, they only deal with objects. So, just like, for example, I'll give some examples. Here's a pen. Now, it can write on objects. It can write on objects, this pen. It can even write on other pens. But it can't write on itself. Here is a knife. This knife can cut other objects. It can even cut other knives. But it can't cut itself. So why? Because these are made, the pen and the knife are made for operating on objects. Can't operate on themselves. Now here's a telescope. If I look through the telescope, I can see other objects. But when I'm looking through the telescope, I can't see myself. And I can't see the telescope either. Why? Because it's made for looking at objects. Similarly, the scientific method is specifically designed for looking at objects. So it can't look at itself. So if we want to find something which is real, it has a real effect in the physical world, but it can't be explained or described by the objective method, then we just look at the scientific method itself. Now, if we analyze the scientific method, we're going to find a whole class of entities that cannot be described or explained in purely physical terms, because they're parts of the process for looking at physical objects. So what are these entities?